My story, well, before I start, let's think. I'm a Ngarrindjeri woman, and I was born and bred at a little town called Rauken. And Rauken is, anybody been to Rauken? Okay, so some of you would know. Okay, Rauken is actually, the church is actually on the $50 note. So if you've got a $50 note, you look, you see this old man, David Yanapin, and then the church is there. Well, that's from my community, okay? Now, I was born and bred there. Rauken is actually the heart of the Ngarrindjeri nation. That's where all the Ngarrindjeris gather, where they go to meet up. And they used to do that many years ago to our ancestors. But the story I'm going to do today is about is very unique. Our Ngarrindjeri country is very unique. Do you know why? We've got 4 waters. A lot of countries might have a river and a lake or a sea, you know, and a creek or whatever. But our country, we've actually got the Murray River that comes flowing down, and it comes into Lake Alexandrina, and then over at Meningie you've got Lake Alberts. And then from Lake Alexandrina you go a little bit further, the water goes, and then you come to the Coorong. And then when you're at the Coorong, you've got these beautiful big sandals. We call them the hummocks. And just over the hummocks is the sea. So we've got the river, the lakes, the Coorong, and the sea. Not many places have 4. I don't think there is any, because I don't think there is any other. But that might be something you guys can think about and have a look at. But anyway, so that's my country, and I'd just like to share with you now one of our creation stories, I call them. And this one is about Thukeri. Has anybody ever heard the Thukeri story? Some nods, yeah. Okay. Well, the story begins, okay? There was 2 Ngarrindjeri men who lives on the shores of Lake Alexandrina. And they decided, beautiful day, they was going to go out and do some fishing. So they went and they jumped into their bark canoe. And then they paddled away. In the paddle, because they didn't have motors then. They didn't have boats, this was the bark canoe, and they paddled, and the waters were so calm and cool and clear. And they were paddling to their favourite fishing place called Loveday Bay. Now when they arrived at Loveday Bay, now this is where they always caught the biggest, fattest, most juiciest thukeries. And they tied their bark canoe at both ends, because they didn't have anchors. So they wouldn't drift away, they had to tie their bark canoe to the reeds. And then the reeds also, because they were high, the reeds actually protected them from the sun and the wind. And they just sat there, and they didn't have fishing rods either. They actually made their own fishing lines called nungis. And nungis were made out of that twine that they made from the reeds. They rolled it and made this into, and then for hooks they used sharp wombat, bird and kangaroo bones, and they tied them on. And that morning those guys went and got some grubs and worms, so they had their bait to put on. And then they just dropped it over, sitting there. Whoops, ooh, that's a big one, pulling it in. And they just kept doing that because there was plenty of fish, thukeris. And they pulling them in and kept catching them. And you know, they were yarning away like fishermen do when they're out there. And then one of the fishermen said, "Hey brother, we better stop. You know why? Look at our bark canoe. If we catch any more, we're going to sink." So they said, "Okay, let's untie." So they untied the bark canoe and they started to paddle back home to Rauken. And then they was getting closer towards the shore at Rauken. Who's that over there? Oh, there's a stranger. Okay. We're paddling in, and the stranger's, he's still standing there. Okay. And as he's coming in, The two fishermen, they looked at each other. They were greedy. What if this stranger wants some of our thukeris? They decided that they didn't want to share. So you know what they did? They got one of these woven mats and they put it over the fish to hide them. And then they paddled in closer and the stranger was there. "Hello, brothers." The two fishermen waved back. He said, "I haven't eaten anything at all today. He says, I'm really hungry. Could you spare a couple of fish?" Well, these two greedy fishermen, they looked at each other. And then they looked at the mat that was hiding the fish. And they looked at the stranger and they said, "We're sorry, brother, but we only caught enough fish to take home for our families and for the elders. So we can't share." So the stranger stood there for a little bit. And then he turned and he started to walk away. He started to walk and then he stopped. And he turned around and he said, "You lied. For this, you will be punished." And then he walked and went away. And the fishermen waited till he was gone. Then they took the mat off and they started to take the fish out. And they're sitting on the shore in the sand and they started to scale. And then they started to get. You know, anyone's been fishing and know what to scale and that, yeah? And to get them. But when they started to get it, oh no! What are we going to do? Look, these fish have all of these fine thin bones in. We can't take these home for our family. They'll choke. What are we going to do? Maybe, well, we can't go on with nothing. We'll have to take the fish home. We'll show the elders and we'll ask them. So they had to return home in shame. They went home, they took the fish to the elders and they said, "Look at our beautiful thukeris. They've got all these fine thin bones and we can't eat them, our families will choke." And the elders said, "Oh, what happened today?" There was a stranger and he came up and he asked us if he could have a couple of fish. But we said, "No, we only got enough for our families and for you, the elders." And then he walked away, but he did stop and he said, "For this you will be punished." And the elders said, "Do you know what? That was our great ancestor spirit, Ngarrindjeri. And for that, we've been punished. Because you didn't share, we are all being punished. And even today, if you should come across a thukeri washed up, or you catch one, you can't eat it. There are just so many bones in there." Some of the kids go, "Oh, you can feel it, my dad, fillet fish." And he gets the bones out. I said, "Not with this fish. There is just too many." So the moral to the story is, what do you reckon? I'm going to ask you some questions now to see if you've been listening. How many fish did that stranger want? Yeah. A couple, yeah. How many fish did they have in the canoe? Did they have a little bit? Lots. Canoe was, you ever seen a canoe? Bark canoe, they are huge. And if that was going to sink, that was more than enough fish for the family and the elders. He didn't say, "Give me half of your fish." He just said, I just need 2. I'm hungry. So what else did those fishermen do, those greedy fishermen? Okay. They told a lie, didn't they? They lied to them. So they, so you know. And so that we, Ngarrindjeri, and same as everybody else, all of the other groups, Aboriginal groups, we've all got rules for living. That's what our ancestors taught us, But, we share. Us fellas, people turn up for a feed and you only got, unexpected. Okay, we'll just, everybody gets a little bit less than what they did, so we can share with everyone. So nobody goes with that. So that's my story. Thank you for listening.